You can't think of Scotland without golf, but you may be surprised to find out that the progenitor of one of the world's most famous pastimes came to Scotland from abroad. Like haggis, bagpipes, and tartan, the earliest origins of golf lie outside of the old country, but glory came through Scottish innovation and passion. The word golf, also known by the Scots as golf, is more likely an alteration of the Dutch kolf or kolf. Kolven refers to a Dutch game where the lowest number of strokes needed to hit a ball with a mallet determines the winner. Cole was introduced into Scotland in the early 15th century. Another similar game was the Belgian cole or cross. The traditional target in both cross and golf is a wooden post. The earliest Scottish form of the game, played on the eastern coast of the Kingdom of Fife, is first recorded in the 15th century. Apparently, players would use a primitive club to hit a small stone around a natural course formed from sand dunes, rabbit runs, and tracks. Unlike the continental versions, this game used a smaller round ball, and a hole in the ground became the standard target. Probably something like a rabbit hole or a gopher hole, which we've all almost broken an ankle in, right? The first clear written documentations for Scottish golf appear in Acts of Parliament between 1457 and 1491, in which the king prohibited the playing of golf and football. Golf was described as an unprofitable sport. That is to say, the government felt it was a distraction from archery, which is considered a necessary practice for the defense of the realm. When the Treaty of Glasgow was signed with England in 1502, the ban was lifted. It had been largely ignored anyway. Also, from 1502, we have records of the purchase of clubs and balls from the maker in Perth for none other than King James IV. Although we don't have much in way of a written down description of the game, there seem to be several different ways the game was played. Common terminology was either a short or long golf game, similar in today's. It's either 9 holes or 18 holes. The short being played in the streets and churchyards, while the long being played out in big fields. Golf remained hugely popular despite its bad reputation with officials as a time waster. This was thanks to its endorsement by the royals in later years. The nobility and well-to-do, who naturally had more time to play as well as funds for the equipment, especially loved it. The most famous royal player was Mary, Queen of Scots. In 1567, Mary's second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, was murdered. Mary's political enemies were quick to point out that she was seen playing golf right after the killing, implying she was at least callous, if not complicit. George Buchanan wrote that the Queen had been playing sports that were clearly unsuitable for women. This may also have been an implied suggestion of loose morals. To her sporting credit, Mary may have introduced the game to France while she was there. Popular lore holds the term caddy stems from the nickname given to her assistants, who were cadets of the French military. Makes sense, and an interesting fact. Except I can't afford a caddy, I wish I could. The Protestant church also didn't like the game much. Priests and ministers spoke against it as a vice. An entry in the town council minutes of Edinburgh, dated April 19th, 1592, includes golf in a list of pursuits to be avoided on the Sabbath. At first, golf was played in any convenient open area, but in time, preferred spots evolved, and the Old Links at Musselburgh is thought to be the oldest golf course in the world. This is documented by notes in the account book of Sir John Follis of Ravelston, dated March 2nd, 1672. Mary, Queen of Scots, may have played there in 1567 as well. Historians have found textbooks written by an Aberdeen schoolmaster in 1636 that reference depictions of the game as a method to teach Latin. This is one of the earliest references to the use of a golf hole being used in the game. How was the game played early on? This is open to some speculation, but some elements are documented and seem not to have changed much. The diary of Thomas Kincaid, a medical student who played at Leith Links and Brunsfield Links near Edinburgh University, gives us some idea. His entry for January 2nd, 1687 describes his golf stroke. After dinner, I went out to the golf. I found that the only way of playing at the golf is to stand as you do at fencing, with a small sword bending your legs a little, and holding the muscles of your legs and back and arms exceedingly bent or fixed or stiff, and not at all slacking them in the time you are bringing down the stroke. Maybe that works. I don't know. My swing's not the best either, and I've had a lot of practice. The oldest set of formal rules for golf come down to us from 1744, drafted by the Company of Gentlemen Golfers, later renamed the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers. This club met at the Leith Links and is one of the oldest, if not the oldest golfers club in history. There are 13 articles and laws in playing at golf, better known as the Leith Rules, are now preserved in the National Library of Scotland. The Leith Rules formed the basis of all subsequent rules and included such basics as your tee must be upon the ground, and you are not to change the ball which you strike off the tee. These 13 articles were the basis for rules created by the St. Andrews Club, which would later be called the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews. The Gentlemen Golfers and St. Andrews have different sets of rules, but were largely the same. Both groups would rewrite the rules over the next 100 years by expanding on each other before merging into one standardized set in 1899. Most clubs used these two organizations as the mold which would later become modern golf. The reason why we have an 18-hole round in golf is that the course at St. Andrews had 18 holes. The 18 was a largely arbitrary decision as the course started with 22 holes, but was downsized to 18 by the merging of some of those holes. Golf was launched onto the world stage in the 17th century, when in 1603, James VI of Scotland succeeded to the throne of England. Henry Frederick, the Prince of Wales, played golf at Blackheath, London, with his courtiers. This was the origin of the Royal Blackheath Golf Club, formally established in 1766. As the British Empire spread in the 18th and early 19th centuries, golf followed. Scottish soldiers, immigrants, and expatriates brought the game to the colonies. In the early 1770s, a golf course was built on Bunce Island in Sierra Leone by British slave traders. The oldest golf clubs outside of the British Isles include the Royal Calcutta Club, the Meritus Gymkhana Club, and the Club at Pau, and that's in southwestern France. Victorian technology and the royal passion of Scottish culture fueled the growth of golf. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert built Balmoral Castle, their Highland getaway, in the 1850s. Rail service reached the town of St. Andrews by 1852. By the 1860s, fast and regular train service connected London and Edinburgh, made Scottish tourism a booming business. After 1826, new clubs were being developed using persimmon and hickory wood imported from North America to make club heads and shafts respectively. A new golf ball, the gutty, was introduced in 1848. Made of gutta percha, it was cheaper to mass produce. Compared to the old feather-filled leather balls, it was more durable and more consistent in quality and performance, which is a huge deal because the ball makes the game. The result was more and more middle-class people could afford the equipment for the game. Naturally, more non-Scots across the British Isles started picking up the game. In 1864, an English resort called Westward Ho! Opened a golf course. It was the first new golf club in the country since Blackheath. The very next year, the London Scottish Golf Club was founded at Wimbledon Commons. England had 12 courses in 1880. 50 in 1887 and over 1,000 in 1914. John Ball rose to become the first English-born Open champion in 1890. By the 1880s, golf clubs had been established in Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and South Africa. In 1891, a club opened in Singapore. At the turn of the 19th century, golf was still quite different from the game we know today. In the 21st century, players are used to heavily manicured greens, motorized golf carts, and high-tech clubs and equipment. The old game, now referred to as links golf or pasture golf, was far more rugged. I mean, you could break an ankle there. Scottish golf courses of old could be between 5 and 25 holes. The natural lay of the land dictated the number and arrangement of these holes. The linking together of the natural landscape holes gave rise to the name. A links course consists of sand greens and sand tees. These unique greens are created by oiling and raking a special blend of sand until it's smooth and lightly packed, more akin to a pitcher's mound than a modern sand trap. Sand greens are easy to walk on and play on. Hickory shaft clubs were more difficult to control. The balls of the old game also tended to travel only about half as far on a stroke as a modern ball. As a result, a links course is more compact and intimate. If this idea intrigues you, you're in luck. Several resorts in Scotland and a few adventure spots in the USA now offer traditional links golf. Some players even adopt a vintage clothing, and kilt of course, to more fully immerse themselves in this time travel sporting experience. Naturally, however, or wherever you play, a kilt is a wonderful addition to your golfing kit. Not only is it traditional, but the kilt also allows for complete freedom of movement as you swing. The ventilation is another obvious benefit on any warm day. And we recommend a lighter weight kilt, like a 5-yarder. Throw on your favorite performance polo and you're good to go. The only way to make a kilted golf day better would be to enjoy a dram at the 19th hole. Or maybe during the game when your game's way off. Have you ever worn a kilt while golfing? If you have, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, check out more at our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.